Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, we sit down with Foreman Richard Bergstresser from the Humboldt County Grand Jury to talk about the county's response this week to a recent report that pointed out massive problems in the Child Welfare Services Department. Also, the County of Humboldt could soon legalize and regulate vacation rentals in unincorporated areas. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. The victimization of children is a phenomenon that lies at the root of many local issues, everything from addiction and the lack of mental health services to generational poverty and poor educational outcomes. One of Humboldt County's most important tools for combating such victimization is the Child Welfare Services Department. But in Humboldt County, as the grand jury recently pointed out, a lack of sufficient staffing and other issues have plagued this system and often result in both county workers and their clients suffering additional trauma. We've covered this issue before when the grand jury report came out, and now, as we promised, we return for an update now that the Board of Supervisors has issued its response. Grand Jury Foreman Richard Bergstresser joins us after the break to analyze the county's response and help us determine whether that response is sufficient to the moment. We'll be right back.
We have such a treasure in KEET TV. I think everybody should be a member. Think about all of the news programs, all of the mystery programs and masterpiece programs that are available to us here. I love them all. It's hard for me to decide what is my favorite program because there are so many. So please, become a member today. And thank you.
We are joined by Foreman Richard Bergstresser from the Humboldt County Grand Jury. Thanks for joining us.
You bet, thank you.
Now, this is a very detailed conversation. There's a lot of ins and outs and what have yous, as the Lebowski would say. But first, we're going to go to a quote from the meeting itself and see just some things that were said, so to give us a framing for the conversation.
So the focus of findings are that CWS is an essential service for children in need of protection. And CWS staff demonstrate knowledge of their jobs and a passion for their work. The focus of the grand jury's findings reference challenges and inefficiencies in CWS operations surrounding staffing, hiring, high caseloads, court filings, and processes. Regarding the grand jury's findings, there is no question that CWS employees demonstrate a genuine passion for the work that they do. The grand juries found that CWS employees may experience burnout, but this cannot be substantiated as there is no data to indicate Humboldt County CWS has a higher percentage of these challenges than any other CWS department statewide. Additionally, there is no data confirming that the stress due to understaffing and alleged overworking has led to a rise in health-related absenteeism in CWS. The Department of Health and Human Services Employee Services team tracks employee medical leave for the CWS division. Tracking does not include the individual's unit within CWS or if leave was related to stress. The number of vacant positions in CWS increased by 5% from January 2022 to January 2023, contributing to a staffing shortage. Records indicate that during that time frame, the percentage of CWS employees on approved medical leave ranged from 5 to 10.5%. DHHS provides approved medical leaves to employees who are eligible under one or more of the following: the Family Medical Leave Act, the California Family Rights Act, the California Pregnancy Disability Leave, or the MOU of their bargaining unit. It should also be noted that the county has resources available to all county employees in need of extra support through its Employee Assistance Program. This free and anonymous resource provides support to staff facing a variety of challenges, including but not limited to stress related to work or other circumstances.
The folks that work in CWS are amazing. I mean, I can't even imagine doing this kind of work and going home at night and not taking it with you, right? I mean, I think we all have that at some level. I know us as board members kind of carry it 24/7 to some degree, but not at the level that these folks are dealing with issues. So I want to thank them for their incredible hard work in this very, very important arena of services for our community. And I want to thank the grand jury too. I think they did an amazing job I'm always impressed by the amount of detail they dig into. And I think the reports come out based on what they were able to find out. And sometimes when we say we disagree, it will often be something that just simply wasn't known necessary by the grand jury, that we're able to provide more detail and information. But these are folks that work for free and do an amazing amount of work to try and help us as a community improve what we're doing. So I want to thank them as well.
So, Richard, thanks for joining us. Like I said, we had John Heckel on the show about 2 months ago, or when this first got delivered to the board. Now, before we really start the conversation, let's establish two things first. Can you give us a description of what the grand jury is? It's not like a criminal grand jury, it's something else entirely. Can you explain that for us?
Exactly, and a lot of people get that confused because the civil grand jury is a fairly unknown entity and really doesn't exist in many states outside of California. Yeah. We are enshrined in the California Constitution. By law, there must be one in each one of our 58 counties. And it's made up of 19 citizens who volunteer their time to not to harm government or shame government, but for good government. Some people refer to us as a watchdog. Mm-hmm. And we encourage people from anywhere, any walk of life to come in. We've heard a lot of issues about people from, say, South County or up towards Hoopa. We're doing a lot of things virtual these days, so the more we can do to encourage people to participate, the more we want to do.
Yeah. Now, the grand jury has had a history with this issue in particular, correct?
Yes.
It was several years ago, I guess 5 years ago, that they first came before the grand jury. And what happened there, and how did that lead to where we are now?
Well, CWS has been the subject of, and other parts of DHHS have been part of grand jury investigations for many, many years.
Yeah.
The most recent one and most prominent was the 2015-16 grand jury that discussed certain issues within the CWS that got a lot of traction and ultimately led to the Attorney General of California filing a suit against the county, and that led to a stipulated judgment for CWS to make some significant changes in how they operate.
And that arose out of the grand jury report?
It was a portion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to take all the credit, but yeah.
No, you guys certainly played a role. So that leads us up to today. And you guys had delivered a report that was not critical of the employees in the department. It basically said, we understand that they work hard, they are well-intentioned and competent for the most part. It's just that they are understaffed and there's a resource issue, and this has led to several unfortunate outcomes for the clientele, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And it should be noted that really the base of this report, when it gets down to it, is court filings and extended court situations that keep families from being reunited, keep them from having the services that they may need, and everything else as far as the staffing and everything else in the report really grew from that.
Okay. So, I mean, let's just start with the overall picture. What do you think of the county supervisor's report?
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
You know, they responded to a lot of things in technicalities, legalese perhaps, but really didn't respond to the core issues that we brought up, which is disappointing. They did what the minimum is in response.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have seen a little less lawyer speak and a little more understanding of where we're coming from in our report.
Yeah. It seems like when I read through it, and I read it all, they're just kind of doing a dance. It's like they take the recommendation or the finding, and then they either agree with it or not. They don't agree with a lot of them. No. I mean, on findings, the county agreed with 4 findings and disagreed with 12. And a lot of times when they disagree, it's just like it's semantics about how they interpret the question. It seems like in a situation like this, when a watchdog organization, an official watchdog, comes up and says, here are some problems we found, there might be a sentiment of, okay, we recognize that there are problems, and let's collectively work to address those problems.
Right.
It seems like there's a lot of dodging of responsibility here, like it's not our fault, or we don't have the money for this, and there's no spirit of problem solving. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's unfortunately the way it comes off to us, or to me at least. I don't want to speak for the entire grand jury because it's 19 members, so
Yeah.
I'll be speaking a little more personally at times. Yeah, it does seem like they're dodging things.
Yeah.
And frankly, they have a large staff, public information officer, they have legal counsel available to them, the CAO's office. We are 19 citizens who receive a little bit of help from a county council. So I'm not going to claim that we have the most legally sound arguments.
Sure.
We can't. We don't have the resources to do that. But the essence of what we're saying, we believe is absolutely true.
Yeah. One of the things that you pointed out to me earlier on the phone is who's responding to the issues raised in the report, and what did you have to say about that?
Well, I think it's somewhat telling that the public information officer is doing a response. It's not.
Sure.
It's not somebody from DHHS or CWS specifically, and that also is disappointing.
Yeah. One of the issues that the report brings up and that they also try to address a little bit is the fact that it takes a long time to hire people and get them trained up to snuff. The county's response seems to focus on the fact that the state is responsible for hiring a large portion of their employees, and so that limits, the turnaround time, or maximizes the turnaround time. And so the county announced basically at this meeting, because neither you or I had heard, that they were looking to become a county that can do that on their own, right?
Right.
Is that something that you think you should have heard of, or, I mean?
Well, I'm not sure when the county decided to look at being its own merit services county. Gets a little bit deep into the weeds here, and I'll try to keep it clean.
Yeah.
But a lot of the social workers, all the social workers in CWS are funded by the federal government, and there's a requirement that they are hired through what's called a merit services system.
Yeah.
Let me try to get that right.
Yeah, it's a web portal, right?
Well, there's a certain process that they have to go through.
Okay.
We are not a merit services county, some are, so we go through CalHR, which is a state agency, and yeah, we're at the mercy of them.
Yeah.
However, a lot of blame was laid on them, and I'm not here to say that they don't have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
However, we can be making sure that the CalHR stock of potential employees is more full by, there's nothing that prevents us from recruiting as a county, from going out there and aggressively seeking employees and selling Humboldt County as a good place to work.
Yeah.
So we can't lay it all on CalHR. We can do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, the lawyer aspect of this. I mean, so real quick, can you run me through what the requirement is for a client with a lawyer, and how does that limit the flow of cases?
Well, again, it gets deep into the weeds, but every child and every parent will have an attorney, sometimes appointed to them, sometimes that they hire themselves. And the county is represented by attorneys. There are currently 2 CWS attorneys. They're hiring a third.
So there's only 2 on staff right now?
2 on staff right now. And a third who is coming on board, and that is what they are allotted. And the response said they're doing fine.
Yeah.
Well, there was a judicial council report to the legislature back in 2018 that said the best practices is 77 cases per attorney.
Yeah.
And that really the base level, the highest it should be is 141.
Which is twice that number, right? I mean,
Currently they're running 200 cases per attorney, and even if that third, they'd be at 133.
Wow.
And we understand that the county has no money right now.
Yeah.
But the fact remains that that is not a way to adequately represent the county's interests in these proceedings.
Yeah. I'm looking for, there was one where they took on this issue, and I thought that the response was particularly flippant. But I mean, to give people a sense of what the kind of things that they, how they responded, like the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors fund 2 additional attorneys, this is the recommendation from the grand jury, assigned to work with child welfare services. That's that you add 2, so it would have gone from 2 to 4.
Funding, 3 to 5. More.
3 to 5, okay. For funding recommendations, see the wording below, recommendation number 4, the process of hiring new attorneys to begin no later than December 1st, 2023. The county just says, while this recommendation has merit, the county's budget can't accommodate it. I mean, it seems like in the spirit of trying to make things work or to try and find solutions, there might be a little bit more due diligence done. And maybe this just doesn't reflect that due diligence, but I'd like to see more of that process in order to have faith that this stuff is being looked at. I mean, let's talk about what ACEs and trauma.
Well, let me one last thing about the attorneys. Elsewhere in their response, they point out that these two attorneys are adequately representing their clients. With that kind of caseload, I can't imagine, and I'm not a lawyer, but just with those stats, that they are. Either they're rushing through some things, or they're not doing as good a job as they could. They can't both be true.
And now what happens to a client when that happens? I mean, what just on the surface?
Well, what happens is they must ask for continuances. Continuance after continuance. That's just asking the judge to postpone the hearing until a later date. The judge really has no choice but to grant that, because if the reports aren't ready, nobody can move forward.
There's nothing to do,
So we've got attorneys who are overworked. We've got a CWS system that cannot produce the reports in a timely fashion, so these cases drag out longer and longer and longer.
But in the meantime, that means that families aren't reunited, kids can't go home, they're displaced, trauma is occurring, and if it's because of a short staffing issue, that seems like a shame, right? I mean, to me.
Well, it is, and part of our recommendation was fully staff the court unit, the people who prepare the reports to go to court. It was our determination that this is the most critical part of CWS. When you go to court, it's obviously a very difficult circumstance for all involved. So make that unit whole. Get the court process going faster. And if you make that unit whole, they may feel more fulfilled in their jobs, not leave, and maybe you can roll that into other departments. But really what we'd like to see is those absurd, really, timelines shortened down so kids can be reunited or put in permanent placement earlier.
Reading this report, it seemed to me, and then watching the meeting and stuff, that the county kind of had a condescending tone toward the grand jury, where it's like, oh, look, we're so grateful for their work, but we're not really taking any of their recommendations seriously. We're giving them rather flippant responses to really complicated observations and recommendations. Can you outline for us sort of the process by which you guys come to these conclusions? This is not stuff that you guys think up over a beer on a Friday night. You guys do a lot of work to make sure you have your facts straight, right?
Yes, we spend a year, and by law, it's secret. I cannot tell you who we talked to, what our investigatory process was, but I can say we talked to a lot of people. We looked at a lot of records, both publicly available and ones provided to us by CWS, which anybody could request and receive. So we took a pretty deep dive into this. Our description of the process, because we felt the reader needed to have that, is pretty clear. And I actually had an attorney who happens to be a friend say that was the best description of the process I've read. Not patting ourselves on the back, but we did a deep dive here.
And you have a full understanding of how it works and where the hiccups are. I mean, as far as...
I'm not going to say full, but a deep one.
A deep one. And I think that that wasn't necessarily reflected in some of the responses I read, and I feel like that's unfortunate. I mean, as Humboldt County leads the state or is near the top of the state in terms of adverse childhood experiences, which turns into, which is trauma, basically, and depending on how the person reacts to that traumatic event. And so that can lead to drug addiction, that can lead to mental health issues, it can lead to crime, all those things. And we're sort of leaders in all those, categories. So this seems like it really is at the root of a lot of our issues in Humboldt County. And I hope that, because of, your reports and the work that you've been doing, they start to take it more seriously and figure out some real solutions. It's a terrible problem, and I understand that the people who are involved want to do better, but it's complicated.
It is complicated, and there is a lot of statistical evidence that peer-reviewed that says, yes, childhood trauma leads to adult behavior that is bad for society and bad for the person. And that in turn, when those folks have kids, is far more likely to subject them to trauma. So the cycle has to be broken. This is one of the places that cycle could be broken.
We have 2 minutes left, so it always flies by. But I wanted to, if people have a complaint about a particular county department or something that they want to bring to the grand jury, how do they do that?
The civil grand jury has a page on the county website, so there's Google Humboldt County Civil Grand Jury. There's a complaint form there, as well as a link to every report for at least the last 10 years.
Wow.
And, you know, a lot of people aren't going to read all of that, but
Sure.
I urge them to look through there, and topics of interest to them, read it, find out what's going on.
Yeah. Why do you serve?
I serve because I'm fortunate enough to not have to work full time, and it's giving back. There's some, Humboldt County has tremendous issues. If we can address 1% of them, then we've done a good job.
Yeah. And are you, so the jury serves for a year. Where are you guys at in that term right now?
The term that issued these reports just ended,
Okay.
and next Thursday we'll be impaneling the next grand jury.
Okay.
19 members plus 4 alternates, and we will get them trained up and get to work within the next 3 weeks or so.
So if someone wants to serve on the jury, they can wait for the next term,
They can wait.
basically?
They could put in a application now and perhaps be an alternate. Circumstances always dictate people have to drop out, so more alternates is better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming down, Richard, and helping us understand this.
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah, no problem. We'll be right back after the short break.
Friends and supporters of KEET TV, we are calling all who have a passion for public television on the North Coast. KEET is looking for a diverse group of people to join its Community Advisory Board, or CAB. CAB members play an advising role to management and act as KEET's ambassadors within the community. Meetings are held quarterly on Zoom. Go to KEET.org, find the link for CAB, and get involved today. We look forward to meeting you.
Limitations on short-term rentals are a reaction to people abusing their neighbors. And that's when we get complaints. We recently got one, buses full of people going in and out of the place. The neighbors obviously are, what are you doing to us? This is crazy.
The County of Humboldt is preparing to legalize and regulate short-term rentals. Currently, vacation rentals in homes, commonly called Airbnbs or VRBOs, are illegal in the unincorporated county outside of cities, except in Shelter Cove.
There's a lot of benefit to the economy to bring tourists in, to give them this level of benefit. There is also a need to protect neighborhoods, to protect housing stock. The rural areas have a different set of needs than the more urbanized areas.
I actually know several people who've been displaced from units, renovated and turned into vacation rentals. Most of that has happened in incorporated cities.
I'm hearing there's rentals available in the rural. In Southern Humboldt, Petroleum, Atoll, there is housing available.
Where the cannabis industry has been struggling, there are a lot of units available. And so in that case, it's probably not displacing existing residents, but I can tell you in the West Haven area, it is absolutely displacing many residents. And I will tell you that one of the big impacts is the lack of volunteer firefighters, the lack of volunteers to be part of a city council or a planning commission.
The first draft of the ordinance defines short-term rentals as a shorter than 30-day rental of an entire house or of 2 bedrooms or less in an operator-occupied home. STRs would be eligible anywhere a home is principally permitted, but county supervisors would cap the number of permits. Planners estimate roughly 700 short-term rental units currently operate illegally in the unincorporated county.
There are other jurisdictions throughout the state that have done something very similar to what Humboldt County did with the cannabis ordinance and identified that uses that were pre-existing, that were existing at the time of adoption or prior to a certain date, those would be acknowledged and would have the first opportunity to be permitted.
Some of the fears from my constituents, and this is no dig on anybody, but is the cannabis process that people feel hasn't worked out very well.
Short-term rentals will not be the same kind of permitting as with cannabis. It's not nearly as complicated. People come in and they comply with the prescriptive requirements. We're done.
This week, supervisors reaffirmed June 6, 2023 as a potential cutoff date for vacation rental pre-existing status. Those rentals could receive priority for permitting. To help craft the ordinance, the public can attend meetings on August 9th in Southern Humboldt, August 16th in Eureka, and a September 7th workshop with the Planning Commission. County supervisors are expected to regulate the industry by the end of the year. As a part of a partnership grant with WETA's new series Iconic America, we're highlighting our own icons here in Humboldt County, the Redwoods. Julie Clark gives us a tour of the Headwaters Forest Reserve.
If I was to encapsulate the story of Headwaters Forest Reserve, I would say one word, and that would be community. We have a community of biological threatened and endangered species. We have the coho salmon, the Chinook salmon, the marble murrelet, as well as the northern spotted owl. And then you have the community that lived here, the logging community of Falk that was here for 50 years, from 1884 to 1937. And then you had a decade of community that really fought to protect the Headwaters Forest Reserve and making it public land for a new community that enjoy the Headwaters forests, that hike the Elk River and recreate out here. This area that we're standing amongst are Douglas fir trees that were planted shortly after 1979 by a man by the name of Riggs Johnston, who was the forester when it was all private timberland. And he was able to get Boy Scouts and replant much of the area that we see when we're walking along the Elk River Trail. This was logged in 1884 when it was Elk River Mill and Lumber Company. And these are clones coming off of this stump, and that bumpy tissue you see is burl tissue where it's actually cloning itself. And you can see some of the sprouts coming off the stump. Sequoia sempervirens, ever living in Latin, is how it has its name, and it surely lives up to its name in the Headwaters Forest Reserve.
Catch the next episode of Iconic America, Our Symbols and Stories with David Rubenstein on Tuesday, July 25th at 10 p.m. Real quick, I want to remind folks that we have a new YouTube channel, youtube.com/outneongalactic. We feature interviews there having to do with the UAP phenomenon, so check it out. We have 7 interviews up right now and more to come. So thank you and good Friday night. Stay tuned, stay informed.